React is a JavaScript library, which means it is a collection of code on which many developers are working for the last decade. It allows us to build user interfaces for websites and also for other applications like mobile apps, desktop apps, and VR apps, that is virtual reality apps. Whenever we build any application, we have two parts, the front end and the back end. The front end is the interface where the users interact, and the back end is where all the logic is done. Simply, front end is the place that has buttons, forms, clickable materials on which the app responds back, and the back end is where we store the data, user credentials, etc. Basically, React is more concerned about building interfaces so that the users can interact with, getting data from the users, and then display the information. A list of front-end development tools keeps growing continuously. For someone, it will be suffice to build a simple front-end using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. However, as the app grows, you will need more powerful tools for developing complex user interfaces. Accordingly, when we deal with such a large and rapidly changing ecosystem, it is vital to be aware of the most up-to-date industry trends. Comparison of different frameworks and libraries usually comes down to what problems a given framework fails to address. In this sense, React is by far rightly seen as the most popular front-end library that continues to grow at an even faster rate. In 2020, it has also been more loved and wanted than any other JavaScript front-end framework or library. In today's session, I'm Manika from Edureka will help you to figure out why to choose React for your next project in 2021. Hello everyone, today I am here with a video on top 10 reasons to learn React. Let's begin without much ado. Let me start with a brief introduction to React. React is a declarative, efficient, and flexible JavaScript library used by software engineers to build user interfaces. It goes by the React.js, ReactJS, and React names used interchangeably. So yes, it's a library, and if you have ever felt confused about if ReactJS is a library or a framework, now you know the correct answer. So I can sum up ReactJS as an open source JavaScript library developed by Facebook used to develop interactive web and mobile user interfaces. It follows component-based approach and the components that utilizes the expressiveness of JavaScript with the HTML-like template syntax. Now let's move ahead with the top 10 reasons to learn React. Starting with the first reason to learn React, which is React is easy to learn. Most developers love React because it is efficient, declarative, and flexible. What is even more important and exciting is that learning React is easier than learning other JavaScript frameworks. If we compare React with Angular on learning basis, React is a library and a complete solution that is built around one main concept, which is to give you more freedom in how you use the library to compose and organize your own component-based architecture, while Angular in turn is more like a constructor or a tree of components, so you need to understand how its elements behave, work, and combine together. Nevertheless, React's relative simplicity does not purely depend on its file structure and component model, but also making the code easier to understand and launch. Of course, React doesn't burden developers with too many things to be mentally managed. It generally does have a simpler file tree and flexible component model, but also that's a significant benefit. React tends to have a substantially shorter dependency list. While Angular's dependencies from a dizzying set that's problematic to track, React aims to make developers' life easier by considerably shortening the equivalent lists. The more difficult a technology is to learn, the longer it takes to start the development process. Therefore, a steep learning curve is one of the main reasons why React has gained so much traction in such a short time. Given React's simplicity, businesses today are more inclined to use it, thus building their projects faster. Now moving towards the second reason to learn React, that is increased job opportunities. There are thousands of jobs in the world which demand ReactJS skills. There are more than 43,000 jobs available on LinkedIn alone in India for React. As compared to 2019, there has been 184% of increase in the openings for ReactJS developers in the year 2020. According to India Today, a Quest report states after COVID-19, ReactJS developer is one of the top digital skill jobs in demand. This quite a huge number of job opportunities makes React one of the skills most of the application developers want to learn and secure a good job. Third reason to learn React could be attractive pay scale. Of course, salary is important. Today, React has the best pay scale on most of the job suggesting websites like LinkedIn, Glassdoor, etc. Talking about the salary trends in India, the current average salary for roles of React domain is 735K, which includes the average salary of 597K for front-end developer or engineer, the average salary of 654K for software engineer, and the average salary of 1 million for senior software engineer. Now, this could be a major reason to learn React because money actually matters in professional career. The next reason to learn React is easy migration. Most of the communities that were not aware of ReactJS are now migrating to the ReactJS as it is very easy to understand and implement. They have started rewriting the code on React. Some top companies like Reddit, BBC, Netflix, Facebook, Asana, PayPal, Instacart, Uber Eats, Airbnb, Twitter, OkCupid, Netflix, etc. are using React. This increases the job requirement of React skills in the world. A lot of successful and big organizations dare to migrate on React because React provides the facilities which help in migration easily. As mentioned in React documentation, when React deprecates a pattern, they study its internal usage at Facebook and add deprecation warnings which let them assess the impact of the change. Sometimes they back out if they see that it is too early and they need to think more strategically about getting the code bases to the point where people are ready for the change. If they are confident that the change is not too disruptive and the migration strategy is viable for all use cases, they release a deprecation warning to the open source community. They are closely in touch with many users of React outside of Facebook, and they monitor popular open source projects and guide them in fixing those deprecations. Given the sheer size of the Facebook React code base, successful internal migration is often a good indicator that other companies won't have problems either. Nevertheless, sometimes people point out additional use cases they haven't thought of, and they add escape hatches for them or rethink their approach. React not only cares for the migration from other technology, but also from older version of React itself to the newer version of React. They don't deprecate anything without a good reason. They recognize that sometimes deprecations warnings cause frustration, but they add them because deprecations clean up the road for the improvements and new features that they and many people in the community consider valuable. For example, a warning about unknown DOM props in React 15.2.0 was added. Many projects were affected by this. However, fixing this warning is important so that they can introduce the support for custom attributes to React. There is a reason like this behind every deprecation that React adds. When they add a deprecation warning, they keep it for the rest of the current major version and change the behavior in the next major version. If there is a lot of repetitive manual work involved, they release a code mod script that automates most of the changes. Code mods enable us to move forward without stagnation in a massive code base, and they encourage you to use them as well. So that's how React helps in migration. The next reason to learn React is reusability, which is a boon for developers. React doesn't require big lines of codes to program an application. In React, we say that everything is a component. A user writes small codes called components and combines them to form another component. Simply, any app made with React is a tree of components. React follows write once, use it anywhere principle. For example, if we are building an Instagram app using ReactJS, we will have many components like a separate component for navigation, another one for the story section, also for newsfeed, then for profile, and all other section of the application. Components are basically like functions. The world has seen a big jump in the increment of the number of developers switching to ReactJS, for which reusability of code plays a vital role. Moving to sixth reason to learn React, which is data binding. Data binding is the process of synchronizing data between the model and view. There are two basic implementations of data binding, one-directional and two-directional. React uses one-way data binding, which doesn't allow child elements to affect the parent elements when they are updated. This makes code more stable and easier to debug. This also makes the code predictable and ultimately improves the performance of the application. If we compare React data binding approach with any other JavaScript framework, let's take Angular. Angular uses two-way data binding to connect the DOM values to the model data. This makes it simpler to work with, but also has a negative impact on performance. It makes it slower when the application deals with lots of data requests. It also makes debugging difficult and results in less predictability. Another reason why you should use React is its flexibility that manifests itself in a number of ways. Flexibility is especially visible when it comes to the use of React for web development. Web development projects tend to grow into bulky systems that may be difficult to fix or enhance. First, when we talk about React's flexibility, we refer to the library's innate modularity. As we know, React's architecture allows bundling front-end code into custom components, thus providing a solid foundation for the overall development process optimization. The React's position on the scale of opinionatedness is stable. The library neither locks nor guides you into their way of doing things. On the one hand, it dictates how you should create reusable components. On the other hand, it gives a free hand to decide how to handle routing and testing, organize dependencies, and more. This degree of freedom can turn out confusing for newcomers initially, but with time, working in a React development environment becomes a pure delight for developers. This way, React allows you to write clean, modular code, breaking the project into separate components. As a result, when code is modular, it gets easy to maintain and scale. Second, React is super flexible in the sense that it can be integrated with other third-party libraries and MVC frameworks. You can choose to create a React project from scratch or gradually introduce React to your existing legacy code base. Creating a new React app is not too difficult. Embedding React components one by one into your code written using other technologies is not a problem as well, and vice versa. It's relatively easy to integrate third-party libraries into React applications. So using React for front-end is a great choice. Besides, while we are on the topic of flexibility, it should be noted that another significant advantage in the ease of transfer and support of React Native apps. React Native is actually a framework for building native apps using React. So if you know how to develop applications using React, you are already well on your way to getting well versed in React Native too. They are conceptually similar. Most of the React concepts transfer to React Native. Thus you can waste no time, learn React Native and start developing mobile applications for iOS and Android with a native look and feel. If we compare React and Angular on this, as I have discussed just now, React gives us the freedom to choose the tools, architecture, and libraries for developing an application. On the other hand, Angular offers a limited amount of freedom and flexibility. Now let's see the 8th reason to learn React, that is fast rendering. React is a client-side JavaScript library that uses server-side rendering. Why is it a benefit? Enhanced support for server-side rendering turns React into a robust, performance-oriented solution for creating content-focused applications, be it a web application or native rendered applications for Android and iOS. React has everything for a brilliant performance. Faster rendering has a massive impact on reducing load times and quickly adapting the performance in real time based on user traffic flow. It's common knowledge that the faster the page load speed, the more users won't leave the website and will use your service or purchase your product. This is crucial for online business, and after COVID-19, online businesses have seen a new milestone. React's virtual DOM is basically the prime cause of faster rendering and better performance of React apps. First of all, the React virtual DOM, that is Virtual Document Object Model, can be understood as a tree data structure of plain JavaScript objects. Accordingly, React's advantage over other frameworks is that it creates virtual DOM as a copy of the real DOM. And whenever the state change in a React component happens, it re-renders the virtual DOM first, compares the old version to the new one, and eventually only the required minimum is changed in the real DOM instead of re-rendering the entire UI. React's virtual DOM serves as a layer between how things are supposed to look and the actual processes happening to render all of these things onto the page. Now let's move to the 9th reason to learn React, that is easy debugging. When something goes wrong, it is important that we have breadcrumbs to trace the mistake to its source in the code base. In React, props and state are those breadcrumbs. If you see something wrong on the screen, you can open React Dev Tools, find the component responsible for rendering, and then see if the props and state are correct. If they are, you know that the problem is in the component's render function or some function that is called by render function. The problem is isolated. If the state is wrong, you know that the problem is caused by one of the set state function calls in this file. This too is relatively simple to locate and fix because usually there are only a few set state function calls in a single file. If the props are wrong, you can traverse the tree up in the inspector, looking for the component that first poisoned the well by passing bad props down. This ability to trace any UI to the data that produced it in the form of current props and state is very important to React. It is an explicit design goal that state is not trapped in closures and combinators and is available to React directly. While the UI is dynamic, we believe that synchronous render functions of props and state turn debugging from guesswork into a finite procedure. We would like to preserve this constraint in React even though it makes some use cases like complex animations harder. React results in not only easily debuggable code, but also highly testable applications. React itself makes it easier to create a clean architecture that is friendly to testing. If we are working with React, we don't have to do any extra configuration of UI tests. Instead, we can use Jest, that is basically Facebook's JavaScript test runner that is configured right out of the box and works seamlessly with ReactJS applications. If we choose to develop a new application using Create React App, Jest will go with it by default, so we will be able to execute tests rapidly. Jest is a node-based runner, therefore while testing a ReactJS application, a developer can run unit tests in a node environment, not in real browser by mocking components under test. Traditional UI test execution tends to be slow, but with React, UI tests are run quite faster. UI tests often end up being brittle, however, by separately testing single React components in a node environment, we can avoid flakiness and ensure test results reliability. This is because in such a way, we will be in a position to test pure functions, which unlike with traditional end-to-end UI tests, is much less time-consuming, both in terms of writing and maintenance. If we are running unit tests using React, we can be sure that it won't be a big challenge to write these tests quickly and update them easily. Now here, strong documentation and community support for React becomes the final 10th reason to learn React. Being an open source library, ReactJS has what it takes to keep attracting more and more newcomers to its community, which makes it stronger over time. The feeling of belonging to a community is a solid base that a software developer can rely on when learning new technology or working on a complex project. As a React developer, you will definitely get this feeling. The React library has once gotten into the growth loop and seems to intend to remain there as long as possible. As of today, ReactJS is one of the 5 top-rated repositories on GitHub with over 170,000 stars and over 5 million applications publicly admitting to using it. React has a rich ecosystem to benefit from or contribute to. Besides, finding one's way around all this information won't be a big challenge, as the React documentation can be easily found on the official website. The community is active, so you can get rapid feedback or response to your inquiry once you feel stuck. Currently on Stack Overflow, there are over 14 million questions tagged ReactJS that have at least one accepted answer. That's incredible how responsive the community is. So once you encounter a problem, chances are someone has already had the same problem and there is a solution to it, so that you will only have to copy paste it from the corresponding discussion thread. With this, I have covered top 10 reasons to learn React. Last but not the least, I want to say, traditionally open source projects get along without full-time developers and are being improved through the work of independent contributors who are committed to the project to a certain degree. But React's contributors' commitment is much deeper than that, which has a direct positive impact on React developers' coding experience. Now, after discussing the reasons to learn React, I hope you have got your motivation to learn React, and for sure it will be useful for you. If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to like the video and subscribe the channel to watch more videos from Edureka YouTube channel. Until next time, thank you and happy learning.